Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lesson 4 in our Lunch Bites web series about overcoming the 6 most common challenges faced by sales organizations. My name is Pete Bretz, and I'm a senior consultant in professional services at Optymyze, where I've worked for 5 years to manage incentive compensation plans for customers in an array of industries. Best engage your sales force so that they drive growth. Driving growth relies on the shoulders of your sales force. Not exactly a revolutionary statement, I know, but how do we keep them satisfied and driving in a direction that grows your business? Well, if you listen to my previous Lunch Bites webinar, this is going to sound a bit repetitious, but I think it bears that repeating. You need to start with being as clear as possible with your communications. That clarity is required before a person even works for your organization. It starts with the hiring process. You need to make sure that the incoming employee has properly set expectations and understanding around what their job responsibilities are and what their compensation package entails. Essentially, it needs to be clear what the employer is offering in exchange for the employee's time and effort. If a clear understanding exists between employer and employee, it forms the basis of a trusting relationship, one in which the employee will help to grow your sales. Once hired, the detailed and clear communication continues with all employees, especially your sales force. As stated in my previous webinar, the company must effectively and clearly explain the organizational strategy. If set correctly and explained fully, the sales force can do nothing less than drive growth while pursuing that strategy. Okay, I'm going to continue down the path of keeping the sales force satisfied, but I want to emphasize that we also need to keep them challenged. By challenging the sales force, we engage their competitive spirit and move towards our growth goals. This slide contains a number of tangible, practical methods we can use to both keep the sales force happy and push them to do more. On the left side of the table are the obvious monetary incentives. For our purposes, we'll assume that you're offering a competitive salary. The bonus structure is a key component of pushing your sales force. And the bonus as a percent of salary varies quite a bit, but I've most frequently seen it around the 25 to 30% range for a standard bonus plan. You need to make sure that attainment of that bonus is not easy, as you want to push the sales force. But that said, it needs to be attainable. If no one ever hits their bonus numbers, despite their strong sales work, they'll become despondent and leave your company for greener pastures. Moving on, the rewards and recognition programs typically provide things to the sales force, TVs, etc. And the SPIF contests frequently do the same, though in my experience, the most frequent rewards for SPIF contests are free vacations, which everybody likes. Now, these types of monetary recognitions are definitely nice and do help with the bottom line. However, if your salaries and bonus structures are competitive, what can really set you apart and help to spur great growth are the non-monetary methods. I would call these more organizational culture methods, as they establish a feel for a company and are the things that people tend to brag about to their friends. The cool things their company does during and after work hours. First, being guided by great leadership can never be underestimated. This flows from the CEO down to your sales manager. If your line of leadership provides strong guidance, their sales reps will most likely work much harder to grow the company. I know personally in my history, when I have a great manager or mentor, I'm much more apt to put in the extra time to make something go from good to great. Beyond leadership, we have a grouping called personal growth opportunities. These focus on developing skills that will be helpful for a sales rep's career without necessarily directly affecting their immediate earnings. For example, becoming a mentor to other reps is something that many find to be fulfilling work. And it also helps to develop that sales rep's skill set, working directly towards moving into management. Another method to engage your sales force is enforcing collaboration. While it's true that some people work more effectively on their own, it's much more common for people to want to be part of a team. Finding ways to bring your team together, developing a sense of community, brings a sense of satisfaction to everyone involved. Now, the next item is obvious. On almost every interview I've ever been on both sides of the table, the idea of work-life balance appears at some point. While most people are willing to work the occasional extra hours, most are okay or not okay with it becoming a habit. Beyond just the number of hours worked, though, a sales rep will want to ensure that they have flexibility when necessary. From a manager's perspective, that flexibility, providing a solid work-life balance, should be important to establish, and as long as the sales rep is meeting their performance expectations, should be encouraged. Now, overall growth does take the entire organization, but too often sales forces are held as separate entities from the overall organization, even if it's just feeling or perception. Integrating your sales force with the rest of the organization builds off of the idea of collaboration and ensures that the sales force does not feel as if they're on an island by themselves. They're supporting the organization with their sales work, but for them to know that the rest of the organization supports them can build a sense of loyalty and desire to work to grow the company for their colleagues. This integration can be established with formal meetings amongst teams, but also with informal interactions both during and after work hours. Finally, we come to the idea of training. Continuing the training of your sales force reminds them that you're invested in not just their present, but in their future personal growth. And don't just provide training that is pertinent to the here and now. For example, training on a specific product. Go beyond that operational view and provide for other types of training. For example, leadership training to help groom your next set of managers. So it's good to talk about all of the methods we can use to keep our sales force motivated and working to grow the company. But we also need to allow our sales force to track their performance and come to understand what is and isn't leading to growth. This takes us back to a common theme amongst these LaunchBite webinars: monitoring performance. You need to have a tool or set of tools that easily allow your sales force to see how they're doing. This includes sales reps being able to view their day-to-day activity, to managers being able to look at their entire team, to senior management being able to understand whether or not growth is occurring and if their strategic vision is successful. In the past, it was common to only view results on a monthly or even quarterly basis. However, with advances in data management and reporting, that turnaround should be much shorter now. On one recent project I've been working on, we're able to report a sale and how that sale affects a rep's earnings within just a few days. Thus, a person can sell a product on Sunday and see how that impacts their pay almost immediately. Being able to tie their actions to their pay is a strong motivating factor, helping growth. This type of real-time or near real-time turnaround also helps the sales force to understand their plans and to recognize and reinforce good behaviors. And again, this real-time and detailed performance reporting assists the entire organization. We can know very quickly which strategies and tactics are pushing growth and which may require a pivot. To that end, I would call out that change is good. Not every strategy or tactic is going to work out as expected, and you need to be ready to make changes in order to properly motivate your sales force and achieve your plan for growth goals. For instance, you can go about restructuring the sales force. This could include territory realignments, quota adjustments, or even changing the structure of the sales team. Territory alignments and quota adjustments were covered by my colleague in previous LaunchBites webinars. I encourage you to go back and review those for more detail. Restructuring a sales force is best done when the process is proactive rather than reactive. You might need to do this